Dear student, today we will discuss socialization and orientation of employees. This is a part of lecture number 7 for the human resource management and development. We will discuss in detail the process. You know that when an employee enters an organization, he faces new colleagues, new job, new targets, new machinery, new plant, and new supervisors. So all these makes the employee a little bit tense. He comes to the organization, the day he comes to the organization, he is frightened. He has the anxiety problem. So socialization is one of the better technique to make familiar the new employee with this organization. Because if you yourself think about yourself, if you go to a new organization, you go when the day you came to the university for the first time, you face face different students, the new teachers, the new environment. So socialization in such a situation is the requirement of the day. So, dear students, socializing and orienting, training and developing employees are common concepts in HRM. These help employees fully understand to help labor force to become fully productive as soon as possible. If the socialization process occurs, the employees become familiar with the organization, familiar with the work, familiar with their colleagues, and they become productive because the anxiety is reduced, the stress is reduced, and they are in a better position to work. So socialization is the process of adaptation that takes place as individuals attempt to learn the values and norms of work roles. When employees better understand and accept the organization views as desirable, they are in a better position to become happy and well-adjusted employee. Means that once the socialization occurs, they understand the organization, they understand the processes, and they are in a better position. They work happily. They work with more interest for the betterment of the organization. Socialization refers to all passages employees undergo. For instance, when you begin a new job, accept a lateral transfer, or promoted, you must make adjustments. You adapt to a new environment that include different work activities, a new boss, a different and most likely diverse group of co-workers, and probably a unique set of standards for what constitutes successful performance. So, socialization is an important and integral part. So, the socialization continues throughout the service, throughout the employee's career, because the promotion occurs, the appointment on new posts occurs. So the socialization, the employees face always new challenges. So socialization helps in reducing the stress. This socialization will go throughout the people careers within organization as well as between the organizations. The most profound adjustment occurs when one makes the first move into an organization, the move from being an outsider to being an insider. Means that the most socialization is required, the socialization is needed when a person comes from one organization to another organization, because he is an outsider. When he comes to another new organization, he becomes insider. So he will have to face a different environment, different people, different bosses or a boss, different supervisors. So socialization becomes necessary for him. As we see that the new employees, they have anxiety over new expectations. They are in fear that they don't know what the organization expects from them. Uncertainty over what was to come, excitement at being your own and experiences new things, fear based on everything friends said about how tough activities organizations can assist in adjustment process if a few matters are understood. There are few assumptions of the implied socialization as described by DeSanzo and Robbins 2010. The first assumption is socialization strongly influences employee performance and organizational stability. Yes, if the employees are socialized, if the socialization process occurs at the time of the induction, they are in a better position to give the good performance, the best performance, and which will lead to the organizational stability. The performance of the performance of the workers depends on knowing what he or she should or should not do. If he comes to know through socialization what to do, what not to do, then he can perform his job in a better way. Understanding the right way to do a job indicates proper socialization. Proper socialization becomes a significant factor in influencing both actual job performance and how others perceive it. The second assumption is new members suffer from anxiety. As discussed in the previous slide, that when employees come to a new organization, they are often stressful. They are in have the stress. They have the anxiety because they come from the outside organization to a new organization. They feel lonely. They feel shyness. They face new boss, their new supervisors, new colleagues. All this make them a little bit stressful. So stress is high because the new member feels a lack of identification. He faces new work, a new supervisor, a new co-worker, and a new location, new rules and regulations. So he will have to adjust with all these, but he can do so through these if proper socialization occur. Loneliness and a feeling of isolation are not unusual. The anxiety set has at least two implications. First, new employees need special attention to put them at ease, providing adequate information to reduce the uncertainty and ambiguity. The new member is usually anxious about the new role, but motivated to learn and rapidly become accepted member of the organization. Socialization does not occur in vacuum. Learning associated with socialization goes beyond knowing the formal job description and the expectation of human resource people or the managers. Socialization is influenced by both understated and not so understated statements and behaviors offered by colleagues, management, employees, clients, and other people with whom the new members come in contact. Employees need to make sure the new employee's experience is consistent with culture or employment grade that was promoted in recruitment process. Almost all the individuals they try to adjust themselves with the new organization. So the fourth assumption is individuals adjust to new situations in remarkably similar ways. This holds true when though the content and type of the adjustment may vary. For instance, as pointed out previously, anxiety is high at entry. The new member usually wants to reduce that anxiety quickly. And that anxiety, as discussed in the previous slide, it is due to the new environment, new colleagues, new challenges. So socialization reduces such type of the anxiety. Information obtained during the recruitment section is always incomplete and can be distorted. New employees therefore must clarify their understanding of their role once they are on the job. Adjustment takes time. Every new member goes through a setting in period and they tend to follow relatively standard pattern. They adjust, but the adjustment take little bit time. Once they are adjusted, they perform their jobs well, and it leads to the organizational stability. Organizational stability also increases through socialization. When over many years jobs are filled and vacated with minimum disruption, the organization will be more stable. Its objectives and culture transfer more smoothly as long-time employees help teach and enforce the culture to new employees. Loyalty and commitment to the organization should be easier to maintain because the organizational philosophy and objectives appear consistent over time. Given that managers value high employee performance and organizational stability, the proper socialization of employees should be important. The socialization process consists of three main steps, which result in increase in the productivity, increase in the commitment, and reduction of the turnover. These three factors are pre-arrival, encounter, and metamorphosis. These are the three stages of the socialization, and almost all employees pass through these stages. If an employee is handled in a better way during these stages, definitely it will result in increased productivity, increased commitment to the organization, and a reduction in the turnover of the employees. So let us discuss these three stages one by one. Pre-arrival stage is the stage when the employees are inducted, when they come in, when they join the job. This stage explicitly recognizes that each individual arrives with a set of organizational attitudes, values, culture, and expectations. These may cover both the work to be done and the organization. In many jobs, particularly high-skilled and managerial jobs, new members will be considered prior to socialization and training and in school. Pre-arrival socialization, however, goes beyond the specific job. Most organizations use the selection process to inform prospective employees about the organization as a whole. This is just the introduction of these employees to the organization. The second stage is the encounter stage, and this is the stage when the new members come, when the new employees come and they meet they meet their co-workers, their supervisors, and they see the organization generally. It is the socialization stage when individuals confront the possible dichotomy between their expectations and reality. When they come to the organization, they have their own expectations. When they join the job, the reality comes. So at this stage, this encounter stage, they have to compare the expectations, and they come in they see the organization in real form, and they have their expectation in mind. So it's encounter stage. On the entry into this, new members enter the encounter stage. The individual confront the possible contrast between their expectations about job, co-workers, supervisors, and the organization in general and reality. They had their own idea in their mind about the co-workers, about the job, about the supervisor, and the organization. When they come and join, they see the reality. So there is some contrast between the expectations and what they see actually in the organization. If expectations prove to have been more or less accurate, the encounter stage merely reaffirms perception generated earlier. If the expectations are fulfilled, then they are in a better position to work. If expectations and reality differ, new employees must be socialized to detach themselves from the previous assumptions. They must be socialized, and if they are socialized, they will detach themselves from their assumptions. Metamorphosis stage, the socialization stage during which the new employee must work out inconsistency discovered during the encounter stage. When new members become comfortable with the organization and their work, this is metamorphosis stage. They internalize co-workers and organization norms, and they understand and accept these norms. the new employers will members will feel accepted by their peers as trusted and valued individuals. They will feel competent to complete their job successfully, and they will understand the organization system, not only their own tasks but rules, procedures, and informally accepted practices as well. So, dear students, this means that socialization is an important stage when the employees join a new organization, or they join a new position after promotion in the same organization. After the socialization, the employee orientation is an important concept in the human resource management. So, let us discuss the new employee orientation. Orientation means activities that introduce new employees to organization and their work. Employee orientation is the process used for welcoming a new employee into the organization. The new employee orientation covers the activities involved in introducing a new employee to the organization and to the individuals in his or her own unit. When the employee comes and he joins, when he is introduced, the orientation means to introduce that employee to the colleagues, to the rules, to the regulations of the that particular organization. It expands on information received during recruitment and selection stages and helps to reduce the initial anxiety employees usually feel when beginning a new job. The importance of orientation is twofold. First, the goal is for the employees to gain an understanding of the company policies and learn how their specific job fit into the big picture. For example, an orientation program should familiarize the new employer with the organizational objectives, history, philosophy, procedures, and rules. As I discussed in the previous slide, the orientation means to introduce the employees to the objectives of the organization, to the history, to the procedures, to the rules, to the regulations of the organization. Communicate relevant HRM policies such as work hours, pay procedures, overtime requirements, company's benefits, review the specific duties and responsibilities of the new member's job. I mean, he should be introduced to all these activities. And it will be better if you, the supervisor or the in charge of the concern, or the HR in charge of the or appointee of or nominee of HR department, they provide a tour to the organization physical facilities and introduce the employee to his or her manager and the co-worker. This is very important. Who is responsible for orienting the new employee? This can be done by a new employee supervisor, by the people in HR, through computer-based program, or by some combination thereof. The orientation, the appropriate person is the supervisor of that new employee, or it can be, as I discussed in the beginning of this slide, that it can be any person from the HR department nominated by the head of the HR or the deputy head or some other person who can introduce make the orientation of the new employees through the computer-based programs, through a multimedia presentation, or by visiting in person to the different sections of the organization and introducing the employee with the co-workers and with the managers and the other staff. In many medium-sized and most large organizations, HRM takes charge of explaining such matters as overall organization policies and employee benefits. Now, why orientation is done? The goals of the orientation are to reduce the startup costs. If orientation is done right, it can help get the employee up to speed up very policies and procedures so the employee can start working right way. The orientation reduces the startup costs because if orientation of an employee or employees is done, they are quickly ready. They become productive in the least time. If orientation is not done, It will take too much time for the new employee to become familiar with the organization, to know about the organization, to know about the policies and procedures. This will delay his productivity. Second goal is to reduce the anxiety because starting a new job can be stressful. As discussed in the previous slide, dear students, when an employee joins a new organization, then socialization and orientation becomes must for him because the new job is he is I have again discussed again and again discussed that he meet new challenges, new job, new organization, new supervisor, new co-workers, new rules and regulations. So he is in a stress. So socialization and orientation helps in reducing this anxiety. To reduce employer turnover tends to be bigger when employees do not feel valued or not given the tools to perform. Orientation and socialization are must because if the socialization and orientation are done, the employee become ready to be mentally to be part of that particular organization, and the commitment to the organization increases. This reduces the turnover. To save time for the supervisor and co-workers, if orientation is done in time, the employees become ready to work in the less time. This saves time for both the supervisor and co-worker. A well-done orientation makes for a better prepared employee, which means less time having to teach the employee. To set the expectations and reduce, if employees know from the start what the expectations are, they tend to perform better. Likewise, if employees learn the values and choose a rotation from the beginning, there is a high chance of the successful tenure at the company. During the orientation, the new employee, they learn about the organizational culture. You know, their organizational culture refer to a system of shared meaning. Just as tribal cultures have authorities and taboos that dictate how each member should act toward fellow members and outsiders, organizations have cultures that govern how their members should behave. We had a lecture on this organizational culture. I think I don't know, lecture number 4 or 3, in which we had discussed the organizational culture in detail. Every organization over time evolves stories, rituals, material, symbols, and language. These shared values determine in large part what employees see, how they respond to their world, how they act and react, how they behave with the managers, how they behave with themselves, how they behave with the outsiders. Employee who have seen properly socialized to the organization culture then has learned how work is done, what matters, and what work-related behaviors and perspectives are and are not acceptable and are desirable. So, the learning of the organizational culture is must for the new employees. The CEO role, Chief Executive Officer in role in the orientation. Many managers have become highly visible in their organizations, meeting, greeting employees, and listening to the employees' concern. As more successful companies have been cited in the business literature for their leaders' involvement with the workforce, as a question arises. Starting a new job is frightening. You may wonder if you made a right choice. Having CEO present from day one, assessing new employees helps those workers. So the CEO role is very important. He should be introduced with the new employees from the day one. This will reduce the fear of the employees and as well as reduce the distance between the employee and the management, and this will prepare the workers mentally to work hard and quickly. HRM role in the orientation. In our introductory comments, we started in our introductory comment when we start the lecture, The theory-led orientation function can be performed by the HRM, line management, or a combination of the two. HRM plays a major coordinated role in the new employee orientation, which ensures that appropriate components are in place. In addition, HRM also serves as participant in program. Consequently, we should recognize what HRM should do. As jobs are made and accepted, HRM should interact with the new employees when to report to the work. However, before the employees formally arrive, HRM must be prepared to handle some of the more routine needs of these individuals. For example, new employees typically have a long list of questions about benefits. More proactive organizations prepare a package for the new employees. The means that these points means that the HRM plays a very important role in the orientation process. As the jobs are offered by the HR, the Human Resource Management, the HR, the department, they should welcome the new employees as they offer the job. They make the appointments and they know the employees. So they should welcome the new employees, and proper orientation should be given to the new employees. Dear student, this material from this lecture has been taken from the DiCenzo and Robbins 2010 book, and this is complete reference of the book.